Okay, so this is my South region. I know it's boring. You have Auburn and Michigan State in the Elite Eight, the 1 and 2 seeds, but I do truly think that they are the best two teams in this region. Iowa State, they're not going to be healthy. I know they'll be back, but you're going to be without Keyshawn Gilbert and Taman Lipsey being 100%, so that's going to be tough. I do think they'll make it past Lipscomb, though. That shouldn't be a problem. Then I have Ole Miss beating UNC because Chris Beard is a great tournament coach. I got to watch him coach Tech in 2019 National Championship, which was awesome. I have Creighton over Louisville, really just because I think Creighton is the better team, even though Louisville basically has the home court advantage. New Mexico over Marquette, just because I know Marquette's been struggling lately, and I know New Mexico is a good team. I had Michigan State beating Iowa State. Like I said, Iowa State's not going to be healthy. I had UC San Diego over Michigan, just because this is one of four brackets I made, and I had Michigan like every other one. And I think that UC San Diego might beat them, so I put it in for this one. And then I had Auburn beating Michigan State in the Elite Eight. Okay, so this is my West region, and it is quite interesting. As you can tell, I did not have Florida or St. John's making it to the Elite Eight, unlike I had the 1 and 2 seed the last time. Is this a little biased towards Texas Tech because they're my favorite team? Now I'll let you decide that. So, as you can tell, probably the first thing that sticks out is I have UConn beating Florida. Like I said, this is only one of my four brackets, so I only put this once, just because I think Dan Hurley is a great coach, especially when it comes to March Madness, and, Florida, they're definitely a key contender for the championship, and I think UConn knows they're not going to win it, but they're saying, hey, if you want to take our title, you got to go through us first. I think Maryland's a great team. That's why I had them going to the Elite Eight. I think Tech and Maryland would be a great Elite Eight matchup. You'd have the Crab Five, arguably one of the best starting fives in the country, against a really deep Texas Tech bench. I had Drake beating Missouri. I think I had Drake winning twice and Missouri winning twice because that's kind of a Cinderella team. But who knows what would happen. I think if I wasn't biased towards Texas Tech, I may have had Drake winning once or, yeah, so who knows. Then you have Kansas and Arkansas, Calipari versus Bill Self. I had Bill Self winning that one, even though they've met twice in the championship and they've both won one. I had St. John's moving past Kansas. Do I think Tech's going to beat St. John's? I don't exactly know. I think it'll be a great game and an interesting matchup. Memphis and Colorado State. That one was a tough one for me because I think Colorado State could win. Memphis is in a very weak AAC conference. So I don't know. That one was tough for me. I picked Colorado State at least once. This one I just chose Memphis. And then, as you can see, I have Texas Tech beating Maryland in the Elite Eight. So, again, I know, boring, 1 and 2 seed. Just kind of the same deal here. I really think that Duke and Alabama are the two best teams in this region. It was a tough one because I think there are some other good teams in here, but I don't think any of them could really beat them. So you have Baylor and Mississippi State. A lot of people think 8 and 9 games are toss-ups, and they really are, but this one, I don't think so. I know Mississippi State was in a tough conference, so was Baylor, but I just really think Baylor is the better team here. Then you have Oregon and Liberty. That's a sleeper versus Cinderella team. So it was a tough one. I think I had Liberty winning once or twice, but this one I chose Oregon. Then you have Arizona versus Akron. I know some people think Akron could upset Arizona, but I think they're the better team. I think I chose Akron once. Who knows what could happen. Then BYU and VCU. You have another sleeper versus Cinderella. This one was tough. I think I chose BYU a majority of the time because I've seen them play, and I think they're a really good team that can make a run. I think this was the only one I chose VCU in, and it's tough to pick which bracket was my favorite because you have certain flaws, but, that's going to happen no matter what, and it's hard to pick the right upsets and everything. So this one I just chose VCU. Wisconsin, I don't think they're as good as everyone thinks they are. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to them, but I have them beating VCU and then falling to Alabama. St. Mary's and Vanderbilt, I think that is a toss-up. If I had to pick one out of all of this. I know some people had Arizona moving quite far. I just don't think they have anyone who can defend Cooper Flag well enough, so I chose Duke over them. And then I had Duke beating Alabama in the Elite Eight. So here we are again, a 1 and 2 seed in the Elite Eight. I think a lot of people see Tennessee as the best 2 seed since they were very close to getting the 1 seed if they had beaten Florida in the SEC championship. Houston is a very good team. I've seen them play. They are awesome. They got Juwan Roberts in the inside, and they got a great shooting team, and they're great at defense. So here, I have Clemson over McNeese. I think that if you asked me to pick every upset in this bracket except one, that is the one I would not pick. I've seen McNeese in the past couple years in the tournament, and they have not come close to upsetting any of these teams. Then I have Purdue and High Point. I think that High Point could upset Purdue. Purdue's a very inconsistent team, but I chose Purdue this time because I didn't want to choose High Point several times. I think I chose them once in my other bracket. Then you have Illinois against either Texas or Xavier. I chose Texas or Xavier here. First of all, you want an upset somewhere. Second of all, Illinois is also a very inconsistent team. I know they had a great start to the year, but once they got deeper into Big Ten play, they definitely struggled. Then I have Kentucky beating Troy. Do I think Troy could beat Kentucky? Maybe. UK is known for losing in the first round. They lost last year to Oakland, but Jack Golke made 10 threes, so I don't know if Troy is a player like that. UCLA and Utah State, I think it's a toss-up. I just chose UCLA in this one. And I had Tennessee beating UCLA and Kentucky because Kentucky's not going to be healthy. They haven't been all season, so we've really not gotten to see the full strength of their team, so I also don't want to bet big on them. And then I had Clemson beating Purdue. Like I said, Purdue's just inconsistent. And then I had Houston beating Clemson to face Tennessee in the Elite Eight. One thing I forgot to mention, Gonzaga and UGA, I think that's another matchup that's not a toss-up, and I think Gonzaga is just the better team there. Now we are in my Final Four. I know, it's not often that people have a lot of 1 seeds in their Final Four, maybe 1 or 2, but last year, you had 2 1 seeds in the national championship, and they were clearly the 2 best teams in the country. Now, I know a lot of people see Auburn and Duke as the best 2 teams in the country. I think Duke is good, but they were in a weak conference, and they did show off. They had a great year, but Houston was in a much better conference and did a lot of similar things to Duke. So this one, I had Houston beating Duke. I think that'll be a great game if it happens. And I just think Juwan Roberts, he's not as good as Cooper Flag, but I think he can hold him off long enough. And I think Houston is the better shooting team here. Then I have Auburn over Texas Tech. Will Texas Tech make the Final Four? I sure do hope so. Will it beat Auburn? I highly doubt it. This is where my bias stops, and I chose Auburn. As you can see in my national championship, I have Auburn beating Houston. I hope this happens. This will be a great game, I'm sure. They're both great shooting teams, both great at defense. You have Janai Broome versus Juwan Roberts. I think it will be a great game. I just think Auburn is the better team here. Thank you so much for watching.